everybody, Alan is here, and this timelapse I will comment on how I created this particular flying van, and I will share my tips and tricks of the process. It took me about 2 hours to make it, and this timelapse we kind of cut down version of it down to 20 minutes. So feel free to skip through, and let's get started. All right, so here we go. So what I started is I had a mannequin that you can just supply with 3D code. I just pose the mannequin by rotating different parts of it, and I build kind of sitting people. So now I have my reference. I can build the vehicle around. So here I use the primitive tool to just create just a rectangular fill, just a square, a cube, which now I just want to position in the ghost mode. So do pay attention in the ghost mode. I did click at the top for pick and act because if you just make the object to be ghosted, you cannot actually cut it. So you have to activate the top ghosted pick and act, so then you're able to cut the stuff. So you can see here was the reason why I decided to introduce more people on the road, because you can do it in I mean in the real car. There can be more people sitting there, right? So there shouldn't be just two people. In a real van, you can fit 3 people in a row. Therefore, decided that I needed to put more people there. So it will be pretty tight sitting there. It depends on the vehicle, right? It can be pretty more spacious and such, more spacious vehicles. Here, I'm actually on my second screen. I'm using a Volkswagen, this kind of classic Volkswagen minivan. It was done in like in the 60s. They use it as a reference, and I actually have cross sections on my right, and I look at them to get some proportions of the vehicle overall. But I'm also using the people as my proportions guide. So here I can see I built that cube and I smoothed it multiple times. I smoothed it. It was at a low poly count, so I was able to smooth it pretty quickly. And now I'm trying to just cut it with the cut tool, with the hide tool, and see if I can just shape it a bit better. And I'm kind of cutting, then I'm using the voxel hide, and I'm hiding stuff, unhiding. And now I'm using the split tool to do the windows. So really just, right now I'm dealing with the blob, just getting the major proportions in and doing the cuts. So the bottom, so I have my kind of wheels at the bottom. So I did the, I'm doing the windows. So you can see I wanted to make a shell out of this big blob. So I duplicated the backup layer and I made it smaller, and I subtracted the backup layer from my main layer, and doing that I created a shell. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm trying to subtract the like a car layer from the bottom. So now I have my separated I don't know, engines at the top, at the bottom. Sorry, not really. I can't really. I don't really know how we call it. Like a sledge, essentially, like sledge elements at the bottom. And I'm just trying to make it a bit smaller. And here I was like, okay, I got the main shapes, and I'm like, how do I make it look like not so not so dorky? How do I make it look like something interesting to look at? Being a simple one and everything, I just started to the whole idea is that I'm adding more vehicles to my huge slum city, so I want to maybe we have this simple shell to start with, but then it's been passed through like multiple years of constant use. There were more elements added on top of it. Maybe some stuff been removed, some stuff been added. Therefore, I'm more or less free by adding details here. Maybe somebody decided to screw a new rack. Here I'm trying to use a sphere tool and paint something on the body. I tried and tried and tried, and I just couldn't really get anything looking good. It wouldn't look just strange. I'm just trying different brushes here. And I decided it's important to show that I've done that because, yeah, all this stuff is not flawless, and I have to experiment here a lot. I decided to add more rust. I just wanted to age this vehicle a little bit. I'm using the grow brush, and that's like rusting this thing out quite a bit. And again, I was trying to see, maybe now with the steady stroke set at maximum, like 50, like a really high value, maybe now I can create something around, and still, no avail. I never really got it looking any nice. I did use a sphere tool later on where I added some cables to the engines. And you can, that's what I typically use a sphere tool for, with some cables. So now I'm using the split tool to split the body into multiple elements. So in that way, I'm creating kind of segmentation and creating more detail to the vehicle. And again, idea here is just to spend a couple hours and build some kind of sketch, which probably will not even be anywhere up close to the camera, uh, and kind of this already has a potential to be somewhere in the background. And I just thought maybe it was too simple, so I decided to add more stuff. It's a bit of a street artist disease when you start to add more details and more details, and it's just never ending stuff. You have to really control yourself. Like once you know how to place details, it's really easy to over detail everything. And you can also see here I'm doing these rounded shapes. So this is a new feature that's been introduced maybe like 3 or 4 months. We're talking, if you're watching this video in the future, it was like introduced in 2023. Now we can round the corners of rectangular tool. So that's really a huge uh, design change. Now we can have all these rounded shapes, which are so common in our regular designs. Took me a while to persuade, to convince 3D Code developers to introduce that feature. Probably took me like, I swear to God, probably I mentioned about it 2 years before it got introduced. And there are a couple other features that I hope we will get through in coming months. It will help the design a bit faster. Here you can see I'm trying. I didn't like that the windows looked that bubbly, like it was all just like a little balloon. So I decided maybe if I just start to flatten out the windows, it will not look that kind of like a bubble gum type shape. Playing with some materials, separated that bit. So I didn't like that separation. So now I made the front window much bigger to make the seamless uh, windshield around the front, and just add in some details. So now you'll see I always have rounded edges on, and you can activate them by pressing the E menu, and there's like rounded edges menu. Okay, so now just combine those two windows, and I'm smoothing in between. Adding some random elements. Some of the elements I'm thinking about, for example, I've added this, how do you call it, like a board in front of the side window. I could imagine this flies somewhere, and if you want to get some food from, I don't know, like from a McDonald's, you'll use that window, and it'll be easier to grab fast food inside the interior. I was thinking here, like the Fifth Element movie, that where they grabbing food from McDonald's, the police car. Here I'm trying to like thin out that shape, and proved to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. I'm just trying to make it thinner. Um, it's one of the common design mistakes when people make the shapes too thick. You wanna, in real life, that metallic part would be probably like 5 millimeters thick at most, probably even less, probably like 3 millimeters thick. Actually, 5 millimeters is quite thick. I would go for 3 millimeters thickness for the metallic part. Just trying to make a seamless windshield in the back. And you can see the shape of the windshield became has a bit of this interesting slope. I like that unusual shape, and I just kept it. One thing that kind of maybe is a bit distracting that we have this wind which is okay. Right now I'm doing the headlight, and I am just using voxel height to do the shape. And now I'm trying to make the headlight bigger, just using the pose tool to make it wider. So I was talking about the windshield has this really shiny glossy material. I cannot have, well, I didn't really paint the roughness into it. So if I paint up like some dirty blurry windows, that would have quite helped to sell this being an old vehicle. And now I didn't have the headlamps, and I want to add uh, some kind of pattern to that. So I'll go into stencil and I start to just play those standard stencils. So I'm using extruder, extrusion, and I'll set the depths a bit lower so it doesn't extrude across through the whole thing. And I'm rotating the stencil so now we can have our pattern. I'm upsampling a lot of the spots. They were a bit low quality. They will like 50,000 triangles, and I wanted to go for them for like 250,000 triangles, and I'm talking about just the body stuff. Doing some voxel hide on the sledge elements, but in the end, I've added the motors, the flying and the flying engines in the end. I decided to indicate that I have a door there. That's the possibility to open the door. I'm not really thinking through that many things like that well, or just to do it, trying to do it fairly fast. Sometimes it goes and bites you in your butt just because you've done it too quick. Then you try to fix it, but generally try to run it pretty fast. So I'm trying to make this kind of mesh grid, or like a a grill in the back. So I could imagine maybe that goes down and people can uh, open the door. The trap door will fall, and it just go down. So now I'm trying to do the top part, and I'm using the stencil to create this grill. So I can imagine that there will be some goods that will be attached on the top, and you can see I'm duplicating it and then cleaning it up using the voxel hide. And I decided to kind of add the grill at the behind as well. Here you can see I've duplicated the grill. I stretched it up, and then I pushed it down because I wanted to create these little columns that kind of, uh, I guess you call them columns, that hold the top. And then I tried to clean it up, and I tried to add more interesting shape to this little parts, and scaling, rescaling stuff. Adding the back lamp. And this is where the blob tool crashed 3D code, and I had to redo the headlamp. Blob tool now is way more stable. You can actually see here the stuff crashed and I jumped to a different shape just because I had to redo everything. I had to redo about 5 to 10 minutes of progress. I'm trying to come up with some kind of mechanism that would drop the trapdoor down, but honestly, it's not. It's a bit of a crappy mechanism. It wouldn't really work in real life. So I just wanted to create some kind of details noise in the back without thinking about it too much. If I were to do it in Blender, I would probably try and run a test how it opens. But here in 3D Code, it's not so easy to run tests like that, like trying to see what mechanism will going to open and rotate. So I decided, like, okay, just whatever. I'll have some kind of like contraption. Contraption. I'll have some kind of contraption in the back, and that will do. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of create supports for that contraption to make it even more complicated. And diagonal holding mechanism. I played with the proportions and trying to figure out what would look better. So here I create this kind of sliding sledge on the side, so I can imagine that little door would. I'm just trying to improve the shape of this thing using the voxel hide. So I can imagine this little door would slide to the side. It's a little bit weird because you would probably want to make a bigger door to slide to the side, because this would like hardly put one person in. But because it was added kind of post factum, I wasn't really thinking too much about the original doors and designs. I was like, okay, it looks good enough. Those kind of like wipers at the top. Trying to add asymmetrical detailing. A lot of the stuff is meant to be a, a game of shadow, because I wasn't planning. I'm not planning to texture at the moment, so every detail there that had, I could add more textures with the detailing. I could add more details with the texturing, but because I'm not, so I have to kind of sculpt the detail in, so that will then show it with kind of shadow and light play. I'm trying to create a like holding shell for the front headlights. And you can see first I add the floating elements just to see stuff how it works, and then I start to add the supports for the elements, because it's just faster to design it if you do the floating stuff and then you do the holding elements. So here I'm doing the kind of this jet engines, I guess, that would work from some super powerful magic battery. And I'm trying to do quick detailing of the edge engines. I'm doing the voxel hide from the front and then voxel unhide from the side. You can also see, I mean, my layers right now are a huge mess. I was like really not thinking too much about naming them, and in the end, I will just probably merge everything together except for the windshield, and obviously except for the mannequins. Now I can see that I don't actually have a floor. I didn't do the interior again. In my other designs, but not my other flying vehicles, if there were no windows, I would do the interior. But in this case, it will be won't be it will be like opaque, so you cannot really see the interior. I was like, don't want to do it. So now I want to do just the holes for the kind of for the for the intake or outtake for the exhaust. There you go. You can see getting something going, getting something. Increase the resolution of the object, and I like it pretty well. I'm just going from the side, and I'm unhiding from the side, hiding from the side. So there you go. I got the grill. And I would definitely, if I were texturing this, I would definitely make play with materials that the grill will be some kind of black plastic, and all the metallic elements will be like black plastic, but the outer shell, the body, would be more like maybe yellowish. And maybe the future iterations, I will do a video how I texture this. So keep, keep subscribed and follow the channel. All right, so I've added a few cables around there just to add some mechanical contraption type thing, and then just I have decided to add a bit more rust because these guys looked a little bit too new. So I use rust and then I use fill to fill up the rust. I mean, I use the grow brush, then I use fill to fill up the gaps and holes. Just doing the front bumper and trying to fix those floating elements using the blob tool, trying to add supports for them. One thing I didn't show, I did a little quick emblem and like a logo in front of the vehicle because it looked a little bit empty without having like a design, like some kind of company logo. And I usually try to use my own name, like a Tenitsky Motor, something like that. But this vehicle is so pathetic. I mean, I don't want to put my name there. But I definitely don't like to use real brands because I feel like if you put a real brand name on any of your designs, you essentially give away your design to that brand. So if you put Volkswagen on the logo, Volkswagen logo on the van, you no longer own the vehicle. You kind of gifted it to Volkswagen. Like you can. It's no longer a commercial product of your own because you're using their trademark, and it can and you'll so I feel like it's kind of strange to lose your design and put some audio logo, a Mercedes Benz, something like that on the vehicle. I would always put my name. Well, in this case, I just put some kind of logo just because was too embarrassed to put my name there. Just fixing some elements where I was cutting stuff out and moving it. Because sometimes I use the split tool a bit recklessly and I cut through the whole object and then it will be too much. Here I'm doing some cleanups. We can see some elements were done with the symmetry that was activated, and I need to just to clean that stuff out. I'm using a cut tool or box hide to hide stuff. I just duplicated all the elements from there or rotated it to make it a little bit different, and that's really about it. So not sure what else I could have added here. Just little tweaks. That was really about it. So thank you so much for watching, and let's catch up in the next video.